We know that parenting has its fair share of ups and downs, but for many first-generation Canadians, there's another challenge, passing on their heritage to their own children. It can be difficult to teach customs and traditions to kids engrossed in modern-day life, but Melanie and Anjum met three families who are rediscovering their roots and learning about themselves along the way.
Anjum, Nayyar and her husband Rakesh are the parents of two young children, Liam and Annika. The family calls Vaughan, Ontario, home.
Can we get cozy? Can we get cozy? Okay, let's be cat and hat, okay?
Parenting is a constant adventure for Anjum, but it's also a delicate balancing act.
And I said, how I wish we had something to do.
Of Indian ancestry but born in Canada, Anjum is trying to harmonize modern parenting with cultural tradition in hope of providing her kids with a solid understanding of their South Asian roots.
There he is.
When I became a parent, I really wanted to find out how do I want to raise my children in a way that gives them a sense of identity as Canadian South Asians, in a way that works for our lifestyle. It's all done? You take that one, Mom?
Today her mother Ravi is visiting to help Anjum and Rakesh prepare for a special South Asian meal. But when Anjum was growing up, her culture wasn't a dominant focus. It was kind of on the back burner. All because her immigrant parents were focused on establishing a new life in Canada.
They would have tried to access more of the culture, but it wasn't really readily available. You know, to try to get those language classes in, try to get the dance classes in, try to expose us to different cultural groups and organizations that we have today. They weren't around. I'm going to wear one of the Indian outfits tonight for Dadi and Dadu, okay? Sound good? Which one do you
It won't be the same story for Annika.
This one.
That one? Okay, here you go.
Anjum plans to start her in Hindi classes soon.
Perfect. The richer experience you can give your child, the better. Because at the end, they're gonna choose what they want to choose anyway.
Anjum now relies on her parents and in-laws to teach her children about traditions like the puja, a Hindu ritual of blessing. But Anjum also wanted to balance the advice from her elders with input from her own generation. She wanted to hear from other South Asian moms struggling with the same issue she has, incorporating her family's customs and rituals into a Western lifestyle. So she started a blog called Masalamommas. Masala usually refers to a mix of Indian spices, but for Anjum it's the perfect name. With help from others she met on her blog, she is mixing and matching what works and what doesn't.
We're able to empower each other. We're able to become friends. We're able to have an honest dialogue about issues that maybe our parents wouldn't necessarily be able to discuss with us. I love connecting with all these moms. I've been able to reconnect with my culture in a way that I never thought possible. And I think I've actually gained a greater appreciation for my culture.
Thinking back, it's such a big part of me.
Sometimes the Masalamommas meet in person. All of them were born in Canada.
And my biggest challenge is not having such a strong connection to Pakistan. How can I continue to give my children that strong identity, the Pakistani identity, and pair it with the Canadian identity?
Well, I think that's still a consistent challenge, and I'm trying to figure out how much of it to skip, as you say, and how much of it to sort of, embrace.
But keeping culture alive and keeping the kids interested isn't always easy.
I find as they get older, they're a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more resistant, so I'm starting to deal with that with my 13-year-old.
So do you guys speak the language at home?
I definitely do, and I try to teach more and more. And Bollywood's a great way to do it.
It's been actually fulfilling because I actually feel like I can, impart something of substance to them, and I'm learning from them. I'm learning that, this is actually cool. It's actually a cool part of my culture.
John and Amy Greenaway are the parents of Amiko and Kaya. They all live in Vancouver. John has Japanese roots, and his wife is Jewish American. The two of them want to encourage their children to not only understand, but appreciate culture and traditions from both sides of the family.
We've been really conscious, I think, careful of raising our kids aware of who they are, where they've come from, and their reality as, multiracial Canadians.
John is the editor of The Bulletin, a journal for Japanese Canadians. It's a position he took over from his mother, Fumiko. Fumiko was born in Canada. She grew up speaking Japanese, but didn't pass that along to John. As a boy, he was more interested in school and music than he was in learning about anything Japanese. Despite that, he always felt different.
And I remember it was not being a particularly comfortable feeling. And of course, as I grew older, I came to embrace that part of myself, and, you know, it's part of who I am.
Ironically, it was his love of music that led John back to his culture. When he was introduced to Japanese drumming, John was so inspired he took it up himself. He helped form Katari Taiko, Canada's first modern Japanese drumming ensemble. Now, it's a family affair. His daughters Amiko and Kaya and his wife Amy are also passionate drummers.
They play taiko now. That's how they access their Japanese culture. They love Japanese food. We took them to Japan a couple of years ago with Chibi Taiko, the kids' taiko group they play with, and they loved it. They both are making plans to go back.
And to prepare for just that, the girls are enrolled in Japanese classes at a local high school. John is envious.
I wish that I'd, learned the language when I was young, but, my parents never pushed me to learn Japanese or send me to Japanese school.
About the best John can manage now is a few basic phrases in Japanese.
Ich, ni, san, shi, go.
But he shrugs that off because he feels he's been successful in building a solid cultural foundation for his daughters. Now he says it's all up to them.
Ni, san, shi, go.
And he hasn't been the one who's been kind of nagging us. He got us started with taiko and with Japanese, but since then we've continued it on our own, I think, and I think that's really important. And the fact that we've been playing taiko for so long shows that it's really important to us and not just him.
Shelley Bear and her husband Douglas live in Oakville, Ontario with their 3 kids, Malcolm, Sophia, and Xavier.
What's your favorite food?
Curry.
Yeah, and don't forget your rice and peas.
We'll put some curry in there.
Okay, so we're going to put some
Shelley was born in Canada but has strong Jamaican roots. Establishing a cultural connection for her children is made easier thanks to the fact that she has lots of extended family living close by. Family with stories to tell, and it's important to Shelley that her kids learn their history.
If I didn't have kids, I wouldn't even really think about that, but that's one thing that I do think about and has come about as me, and my husband being parents and trying to instill this in our children.
Shelley was born in Sudbury. Her mother, Christiana, who came to Canada as a domestic, was determined her daughter would get a good education and have a better life here.
In my school of 300-400, there's maybe 4 or 5 people of color, and when I volunteer in my son's school every Thursday, it's just totally different. I think when the school did a poll, they found that the school represented like almost 100 different countries around the world.
Like her children's school, Shelley's neighborhood is overflowing with kids from different backgrounds, and she's happy hers are blending in. But she also thinks it's important that they don't forget their roots.
Xavier, how you doing, pal?
Both Shelley and Douglas grew up immersed in their culture, but there was one thing Shelley did not embrace, and that was patois. Her mother refused to teach her the Jamaican dialect.
She made a distinct, pointed effort to make sure I did not pick up any of those speaking habits, because she was worried that people at school, the teachers, might think I wasn't smart.
But Shelley's children became curious about patois when they heard their grandmother speaking it. That interest grew until they finally asked her if they could learn to talk like Grandma.
That means sit down.
Steady.
Or how do you say what's going on?
Wagwan.
Yeah, wagwan. Yep.
As it turns out, Shelley's mom softened and bought the kids a patois introductory book.
Hold the camera good. And I was like, boy, Mom, if you had done that when I was a kid, you know, it would be great.
The Bears go to Jamaica every year. That's where Shelley's mother lives during the winter. Family ties are so strong that a seasonal visit is never missed. But that's not all.
We adopted a school in Jamaica called Teamwork that's affiliated with my mom's church. I go to the store with the kids and we pick out things to bring to the school, like various items, just so that, because, you know, I write a check every year, but for them to see the kids and to see what they have, because, you know, the kids here, we have so much.
Shelley wants her children to understand their roots and be grateful.
I want them to know that they come from, you know, hard-working people, and that Grandma and Grandpas came here so that they could experience a better future.
John Greenaway says his family is part of a new demographic, a new Canadian reality.
By celebrating your otherness or your ethnic roots, your cultural roots, you're not taking anything away from your Canadianness. You think you're adding to it. And I look at our family and I'd say, well, we're a model Canadian family.
You got a chilly willy face?
Anjum Nayyar says it's a win-win situation.
So I think by giving them a sense of culture, a sense of identity, I think it'll just make them better citizens and better individuals out in the community that they serve.
I'm sleepy.
I'm sleepy. Yeah, that's right. You have to go to bed. Lights out, buddy.
Melanie Nagy, CBC News, Toronto.
Night, night.
Canada is regarded around the world as a success story when it comes to multiculturalism. In 1971, Canada became the first country to adopt multiculturalism as official government policy. In the 2006 census, the most recent available, Canadians reported coming from 200 different ethnic backgrounds and speaking 100 languages other than English and French. A Canadian culture